Hi, welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. Today I'm going to be discussing about another interesting topic, and this is one of my other voice notes. Like I said earlier on, I'll be doing quite a number of voice notes. It's going to be regular, more informative, more rich in content, and I sure hope you're going to derive the fullest benefit from whatever I talk about. But I'll still be doing the other kinds of presentations that I've done before, which PowerPoint. Okay, so today I want to discuss about how to write an evaluation report. I am doing this video because apparently, and this is one interesting thing, I have had this channel for 3 years now, and I never thought that one of my videos had received a lot of bad reviews. And many of those reviews were, okay, I had a lot of course, there were a lot of good likes. There were actually more likes than dislikes on that YouTube video. But actually, the margin between the likes and dislikes was quite small. And it got me thinking that this video was actually very bad, because just a day before yesterday, I got a comment from a lady, and I think I've forgotten her name, but I think she must be from Europe. She actually said my video was really bad. And I appreciated her comments because a lot of other people felt the same way. So I told her that I'm going to make a new video, a better video, and I hope maybe she can actually derive the maximum benefit. But this time it's going to be a voice note. So the question is, how do you actually write an evaluation report? To start with, what is an evaluation? You see, folks, an evaluation is an in-depth assessment, all right, which is done in order to determine whether the intended activities or the activities that were implemented have achieved the intended results. So this evaluation is usually, from my experience, if you're having a project that is running for 5 years, or even for 3 years, or even for 7 years. Okay, I've never heard of a 7-year project, but maybe 3 and 5. So if you have a project running for 3 or 5 years, there are two kinds of evaluation. You have the midterm evaluation, and then you have the end of term evaluation. So the midterm evaluation is the halfway evaluation, which is done in order to ascertain whether the project is on the right track. Then when you have the end line evaluation, this evaluation simply just determines whether indeed their intended objectives were achieved. So now the thing is that I think I had mentioned this in the other video, that usually if you're looking for impact, it doesn't come that soon, that quickly. But it still doesn't hurt to undertake these studies. So now, these evaluations, of course, will need an evaluation report. So this report, the question is, how is it written? All right. Standard practice dictates or really guides us that if you're going to write a report, it should be well structured. It should communicate to the audience what exactly you were trying to achieve. So now, that in view, when you conduct an evaluation, it's not like some kind of research, academic research, which you do at the university. No, because It's similar, but it's not really that, because in an academic research, you are defining new items, you're getting new knowledge, you're doing new stuff. All right, this data collection, this research, this analysis, this report writing, you're trying to discover new ideas, new knowledge gaps, okay? Something that hasn't been done before. But when it comes to an evaluation, it's simply an assessment. You're not really doing some kind of, it's similar, but it's not really, because the objectives are well defined. What you want to see is well defined. The question is whether what you want to see is there, whether it has happened. All right. So that is the difference. Research, you're discovering new knowledge. You don't know what to expect out of the findings. But with an evaluation, you know what to expect, but the question is, have you achieved it? So now, when you do an evaluation report, that is what people want to see. That is what people want to know. So whatever you're writing in that report, you have to make sure that the audience, whatever you do, whatever you're writing, you need to think about the audience. And it reminds me about the way business is, okay? You may be passionate about a certain project. Sorry about that. I mean, a certain product. You might be passionate about a certain product, a certain idea. But ultimately, it is the consumers that dictate whether you are going to succeed or whether you are going to fail. And that is why many businesses today invest a lot of money in collecting data about consumer behavior. Because ultimately, they want to know whether this which they are promoting, this product they have in the market, is actually what the consumers want. So now, when doing the evaluation reports, it's really important that the clients, the stakeholders, are the focal points, are the chief people you are looking at in communicating these findings. So when we say stakeholders, we're talking about the people that are affected by this project. Those are the people. So we have the government, we have the beneficiaries, we have maybe businesses. Depending on the project, they are going to be affected by it. So now, that being said, how do you write the evaluation report? So standard practice is that you need to follow the standard way of writing a report. There should be your title page, there should be your executive summary, there should be a list of acronyms, tables, and then the table of contents should list everything: introduction, objectives, methodology, findings, discussion, conclusion, recommendation, references. All those are the key things that must be in the report. So now, the title page, take for instance, if your strategy was, if you had a project that is to reduce poverty levels in the state, in a certain state, maybe in a certain state in a certain country, okay? So now let's say, okay, just for example's sake, let's say we want to reduce poverty levels in the province of X in the country of India, okay? All right, maybe not India. Let's be more realistic. I've heard a lot of sometimes Ethiopia. I know sometimes Ethiopia has a lot of challenges. You hear of hunger cases and they're like, let's look at Ethiopia. So you say you want to reduce poverty levels by 15% in the country of Ethiopia. So your title page in the evaluation report will be an evaluation of the project, okay, because obviously the project that is trying to reduce, it's a project that is reducing the poverty levels in that country. So you say an evaluation to determine whether poverty levels have reduced by 15% in the country of Ethiopia. Okay, so that's how you open your title. That's how you write your title. So you put the date, you put who has written it, which of course is yourself. You put everything there. Then the next stage is now the table of contents. Then after the table of contents, whatever is in the table of contents, those obviously are the sections. All those sections should be reflected in the body of the report. So now, when you move to the acronyms, all right, after the table of contents, you go to the acronyms. Acronyms are simply those initials, okay? For instance, the word UN, that is an acronym for United Nations. So you have to have all those acronyms. If you are using those acronyms in your report, have them listed down. It could be United Nations. It could be, let's say, which other organization do I know that uses acronyms? Anyway, there are a lot. But, okay, so let's say World Health Organization, WHO, that's another acronym. List all of them only if you are using them in the report. If you're not using any of those acronyms in the report, don't list them. All right? Then you can also include a section for list of tables, because in your body of the report, there'll be a list of tables there. So include them. So now the introduction. A lot of times we have, I know it's not just me, sometimes I face this challenge, but I know a lot of people face the challenge of how do you do a good opener for an introduction. So the introduction really, if you're having problems doing a good opener, there are so many reports on the web. You can download PDF files of those reports, okay, just to understand a good opener. But what I've seen has come to help is when you do an opener, you simply say what this evaluation had done, okay? So for instance, if it's the introduction, you can open by saying this evaluation was conducted between the dates of this and that in order to assess whether poverty levels had reduced, okay? But then that is an opener, and then you can feed in more information to enrich the introduction. So now, after the introduction, another important point is the objectives. Why are you doing this study? What are you trying to achieve? So the objectives, for instance, you have the overall objective, then you have specific objectives. So the overall objective would be to determine whether poverty levels have reduced in Ethiopia. That's what you do. All right. Okay, so let me say this again, that these are just examples. It's not that people are hungry in these countries or not. No, that's not the point. I'm just trying to look at an example so that everyone can be on the same page. Okay, so the overall objective to determine whether poverty levels have reduced. Then the specific objectives. Now that is where now you go into the specifics. You mention what exactly in this overall will you be doing? Okay. So will it be that you collect data from specific individuals? Will it be that you have discussions with specific individuals? Those are things which should be reflected in your specific objectives. So after you're done with the specific objectives, you go to the methodology. This is where now you explain how you're going to undertake this research. Okay? What kind of tools will you use? What kind of methods will you use in order to collect this data? Will you do one-on-one interviews with beneficiaries? Will you collect past research papers done by other people in order to carry out this assessment? Will you rely on reports such that such things and such things will be important in this report? So after the methodology, now you go to the findings, and that is where now you explain what is there. Don't give your opinion, no. Just explain what is there. So if poverty levels is still high, just put it there. If poverty levels have reduced, put it there. Okay? Because the findings should explain what is there, not what you think. Okay? Because at the end of the day, when you have these findings communicated to other people, people will be interested to see your raw data, the information you entered in whichever software you were using to analyze this data. So it's important that you are objective as possible. In the discussion, that is where you can give your opinion based on other findings. So like in the discussion, that is where you use past research. That is where now you analyze things and say to yourself, okay, the reason why poverty reduced or increased, and that is where you explain, you justify why you feel that based on this is how it is. Okay? So it's a discussion, and okay, it's not really also about giving your opinion, but it's just about making sense of all the literature compared to what you've found, what your findings are showing. So after that, after the discussion, you now go to the conclusion. So in conclusion, all right, poverty levels have, so you conclude by saying, has it increased? You say it has increased by this much. Has it reduced? It has reduced by this much. So in short, the conclusion should speak to the objectives. So now, when this is done, you can now give your recommendations. You mentioned that, okay, perhaps in order to reduce these poverty levels, we must do this. Okay, so these are your thoughts of how certain things should be corrected. What should be done to correct certain things. So after your recommendations now, you can now annex all the other information that you had used to collect data. Okay, this is other information like questionnaires, or it could be tables. Bulky information can be annexed. Key information can be annexed. But all this information you're annexing, some of it should have reflected in your main body of the report. Which brings me to the next point, that after the annex, you have the references. So the literature you were using to do your research should also be reflecting in the report. Don't just throw in literature. make sure this literature is relevant. So now you've seen an idea of why and how an evaluation report should be done. So the next thing is that after you've written, after you've written the evaluation report, make sure that you proofread your report. Make sure that it's free of errors, the spacing is properly done. Make sure that it adheres to the standards that people are looking for at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if you're a consultant who was contracted to do the evaluation and the evaluation report is below par, nobody will be willing to pay you. So it's important that you counter-check your work. And more so, it should be answering the terms of reference. It should be answering the objectives of the project. At the end of the day, when you read this evaluation report, does it answer whether poverty levels have reduced? One thing I've noticed in my years of experience, it is really tough. It's really tough because there's so much information being reported in these reports, so much that it is so difficult to draw conclusions. So it's important that whatever we do, we need to do it the right way. And that is why even when coming up with this evaluation report, we shouldn't aim to have a bulky document such that people don't even want to read it. Which brings me to the next point, that after you've written all these sections, it is only after you've written all these sections that now you can write your executive summary. Many people will first write the executive summary and then the main body, but that is not the right way to do it, because when you do the executive summaries, you are simply summarizing everything you've written in that report. That is why it should come last. After you've done the executive summary, now you are ready to submit a report that matters. And once it is submitted, comments will be received, refinements will be made, but ultimately, the whole idea is that this report should achieve the intended objectives. So now, there is no black and white rule of how the report should be structured in terms of graphics and the like. But it's always good not to reinvent the wheel. If certain reporting ways have been successful by a certain organization and you're in that organization, use it. Use what they've been using to report to donors. Another thing is that these evaluations, I told you that there are three, actually four. No, it's actually three. So you've got the midterm evaluation, the endline evaluation. So these two, and then you've got these other routine activities. But evaluation is not so routine, but let's say we've got two main ones. So after you've done that, there's one thing I need to mention, that in the process of having these evaluations, it is key that there must be all the data available that will feed into the evaluation report. So in many cases, when these things are being done, the consultant is an independent, objective person that is contracted to conduct this evaluation, but he will rely on certain information that is already there. So in order for it to be a success, at this level, we should be already collecting information about our objectives, what we want to achieve. Okay, and this information should be there handy such that any consultant that comes to conduct an evaluation will have all the information and hence make it easier for report writing. So at this point in time, I won't say much about how to write an evaluation report because it is self-explanatory. But I would really like to hear your thoughts about this presentation and about your experience. So please don't feel shy or hesitate to write to me. I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye.